If you are looking for a good bridge adventure, or you just want to run a maybe not a super long adventure for characters level fourth that will take them up to seven, then I might have a good adventure for you. It is always important to kind of support independent creators, and this particular one, the Light of Sharkteeth Cove, comes with a bunch of things for the various virtual tabletops to include Fantasy Grounds, Foundry, as well as Roll20. Plus, it has its own Foundry VTT integration as well that will bring a bunch of stuff in. My name is Don. I'm trying to be the Sly Strategist, and let's go ahead and get into it. Now, the story of The Light of Sharkteeth Cove by Alan Tucker, it's available on Pathfinder Infinite, and it's pretty easy to get, pretty easy to import, and it's a good story. It basically revolves around you on Sharkteeth Cove, which is basically located on an island in a tropical region, specifically the Shackles, which is west of the Mwangi Expanse, but it can be placed kind of anywhere where a tropical island would be a good setting. And on that particular island, you are encountering a fishing village that is basically a goblin village of Horik. You'll be interacting with the villagers, some interesting NPCs, as well as going on with the story, and you'll learn a little bit about the history. You'll be able to do some daring rescues of people that have been shipwrecked, as well as confront a band of marauding sea devils. It is a really good adventure. Considering that there are 3 modules and each module only covers 1 level, there's a lot of information in there. And this module really kind of brings that whole tropical, slightly piratey, slightly almost vacation type feel to this particular adventure, and it is well worth the effort. Let's go ahead and cover a few of the things that you get with it. Now, I am not going to go too much into the actual story of The Light of Sharkteeth Cove, simply because it's an independent creator. It is something you have to pay for, and it is worth it for you, I feel, for you to actually buy it, but I fully enjoyed it. The Foundry integration is really good. It is similar to the integrations you'll get with Paizo products. I'll go ahead and throw some pictures up here as we're going through, but the module that you get, and you can bring it in pretty easily. And there are instructions actually when you download the module itself on how to import it into whether you are running Foundry on your own server or whether you are running through another party like The Forge. It'll tell you how to import that. And it kind of gives you all the information about the village for each one of the parts. Once again, there are 3 parts to the story, and those are part 1, the village of Horik, and that is the Goblin Fishing Village. Part 2, Devils, Sharks, and Tritons, Oh My, which I kind of love that title. And part 3, which is the Master's Domain. The module that you get kind of gives you the same type of instructions as a GM that you're used to from a Paizo module, where it tells you, and once again, I don't want to show too many screenshots because I really think that this is something that you should probably buy to take a look at if this does seem interesting to you, but it does show you how to run it. It shows you what the levels are. It shows you kind of like an overview of the series so you can go ahead and run the module. Now, it does not, generally speaking, include the journal entries like it did in the beginner box for each one of the specific rooms. So you'll have to notice when you go to room A6 that you need to go to A6 in the PDF that comes with it. But for the price you're paying, which is not very much, especially if you do the bundle, which I believe right now is only $9.99 for a bundle of all 3, it's still a good value, and it's still well worth the effort. It does come with full maps. The maps can be imported. And once again, I'll show a screenshot of some of the maps that I've brought in within Foundry. I'm not going to show too much more than what he shows in the Pathfinder Infinite or the DriveThruRPG description. Once again, simply because it's an independent creator. And if you do want it, it is something that you should probably purchase in order to get. However, even for part 1, it comes with basically 7 maps, and it's super easy to bring in, very well detailed. You will also have unique monsters, unique creatures, and the ones that aren't unique, you get a link to their particular description on Archives of Nethys. It is a linkable PDF. So if you come across something, you hover your mouse over it, it'll take you to a page within the PDF that it might explain a little bit better. Or once again, if it is something that's in the Archives of Nethys, it will take you there. So it does kind of lead you along the way as to how you might want to run this particular game. Now, it doesn't just kind of leave you hanging from the start where you have to figure out how to get your party from Otari all the way to the Mwangi Expanse. Once again, this could take place anywhere that's a little bit tropical, but it does kind of give you, especially in the first module, how you are going to get to that settlement. There are various ways to do it, too, specifically, and it will tell you both the encounters if you want to go by land or if you want to go by sea, what encounter you might have there as far as danger. And then just like most other modules, for each particular part of the maps, it will give you a description, basically the journal entry for that particular place when your player characters go there, so you aren't going there blind and having to come up with story, as well as any adventures, things they might find. It's a pretty complete module, and I really do like it. It has a pretty fully fleshed out set of NPCs. I would possibly say that the only thing I don't particularly like about mainly some of the unique creatures and some of the NPCs is there is artwork for it, and I like the artwork for it. However, they aren't available separately, so you'll have to maybe screen capture and cut them out. If you wanted to make tokens or you wanted to show the artwork to your players when they meet an NPC, so you might have to do a little bit of that work yourself. Once again, I don't want to go too far into the story itself, so I will kind of leave that as that. So you do have the fully fleshed out PDFs for all three of them. And remember, each one is for a single level, so it's pretty good. Let's go ahead and get into the player option side of it. So it does have at the end an appendix. It gives you some information that you can hand out to your players. We'll start with the first thing that I find interesting is they do have a background. The background is a fisher. Now the fisher is kind of its description is, you grew up tying knots and baiting hooks and learning how to fish. You do get the normal 2 ability boosts. One is a choice and the other is a free ability boost. And then you get what your skills would be, which would be the nature skill and the aquatic life lore skill. And then it has its own feat. Now it is a first level feat, and that is the only feat that is available within the particular book. I'm not going to get into the specifics once again, but it does have a feat that comes along with that particular background. Also in the appendix, what you don't want to show to your players is it does have some unique magic items for each one of the modules. And then the other particular thing I do like about this particular series of modules here is, although they are set up to be run one after another, once again, part 1 is 4th, will take you to 5th level. Part 2, 5th, takes you to 6th. And then part 3 is 6th, takes you to 7th. You can run them as standalone, and there is a section that kind of gives you some advice if you want to run it as a standalone. Let's say that you were already west of the Mwangi Expanse and you don't need to do, well, how did they get there? Or they don't need to necessarily meet the villagers in that big of a way, and you could kind of pull it off just by role playing. Well, then maybe you don't need to do part 1. You can go to part 2 or maybe even part 3. Although, once again, I kind of like how the whole thing flows together. And I think going to part 3 would be a very odd one to do. At the very least, I'd say play part 2 and part 3. So let me go ahead and kind of close up on that, and let's go ahead and talk about what I like and what I don't like about it. So there are some distinct things that I like about this particular module. I love the story. I love the fact that it is a very well detailed 3-level module, and it's one of those mid-range modules where a lot of times you're left struggling. Okay, you did the beginner box, you did the one after that, and now you're trying to see, well, where you can go. You're at level 3, level 4. Where do I go now? Well, this can take that party up to level 7. Also, if you just want to run a 3, 4, 5 session adventure, let's say your GM is going on vacation and you decided, well, I'm going to take it up and I'm going to play this for the next 6 weeks. Well, then this gives you something to do with your party, or maybe with a new party while your other party is kind of on vacation with your GM, I guess. The maps, very well done. I really like the maps, and I have recently been playing a lot with Dungeon Draft, and this is way better than anything I can come up with. I do like the artwork. I do like the backgrounds for the NPCs. I do like the stat blocks for the creatures that are introduced. I think they're very well balanced. And some of the specific encounters, man, I wish I could go in a little detail. There's one that happens at the very beginning of part 1. And if you decided to go by sea, I really like that encounter. I like how it is designed. I like how specific it is. I like how it is scripted to end. And it also gives you an out if you don't particularly want to TPK your whole party at the beginning of the adventure. Now let's go over a couple things I don't like. Now there isn't a whole bunch that I'm going to say that I don't like. It does require a little bit extra work in order to bring it in, as opposed to a Paizo module that has been totally integrated into Foundry. Now, once again, there are a lot of regular adventure paths that you can't just pull into Foundry super easy. And Foundry is the one that I mainly play with. I have done a little bit on Roll20, but only as a player, not as a GM, so I cannot speak to that. And I've never played on Fantasy Grounds, so that would be a hard one to say. But as someone who plays and brings things into Foundry, it's really not that hard. I do like that they do have the Foundry VTT integration. That does actually help a lot. When I was first looking at this, which was, geez, over a month ago, that part wasn't done yet. Once again, this is a fairly new adventure that we're going on, a little 3-level adventure that we're going on. So that wasn't actually done yet when I first received this. And it does help, but you still have to bring in some of the maps and some of the other information yourself. I also wish that the artwork was available as a separate token pack, or even if the artwork itself was just available as JPEGs or PNGs so that you could make the tokens yourself. But aside from that, I can't think of anything I really don't like about this module. None of those things that I've mentioned that as things I don't like, which sounds a little heavy-handed, in truth, they aren't bad. They're just, I'm trying to think of the right word for it, mildly inconvenient, that you have to do a little bit yourself, as opposed to what you might get if you're running the beginner's box or Abomination Vaults. So it is a fully fleshed out adventure that you can take your players on. Now, I do hope you like this little independent creator review of The Light of Sharkteeth Cove by Alan Tucker. I will go ahead and include links both on DriveThruRPG and Pathfinder Infinite in the description of this particular video. I really do like doing these independent creator previews and reviews. They're a little bit harder to do because you have to spend a lot of time with them. I actually kind of like the preview a little bit better than the review, because the review, it's a finished product, so I don't feel like I can go into a whole bunch of specific detail. But I did really like this particular 3-level adventure that you can take your players on. Once again, I hope to be doing more of these. They do take a little bit of extra time. But if you did enjoy the video, please feel free to like, subscribe, or hit that notification bell for anything else coming down the pipe. But whatever you do, I hope you have a great day and happy adventuring. Thanks.